The precarious state of wildlife in the present world. The tapestry of life on Earth, woven with threads of countless species, is facing an unprecedented unraveling. From the deepest ocean trenches to the highest mountain peaks, wildlife populations are experiencing alarming declines, signaling a profound crisis in the health of our planet. The present world is witnessing a biodiversity loss of catastrophic proportions, driven by a complex interplay of human activities that are pushing ecosystems to their breaking point. This article delves into the multifaceted status of wildlife in the contemporary era, examining the key threats, highlighting the species most at risk, and exploring the urgent need for global conservation efforts. The sheer scale of the decline is staggering. Recent reports paint a grim picture, revealing an average 73% drop in the size of monitored vertebrate populations, mammals, birds, reptiles, amphibians, and fish, between 1970 and 2020. This signifies not just a reduction in numbers, but a significant erosion of the abundance and distribution of life across the globe. The implications of such a drastic loss are far-reaching, impacting ecosystem stability, food security, and even human well-being. The unfolding extinction crisis. The International Union for Conservation of Nature, IUCN, Red List, a comprehensive barometer of the health of the world's biodiversity, indicates that over 47,000 species are currently threatened with extinction, representing 28% of all assessed species. This includes alarming percentages across various taxonomic groups: 41% of amphibians, 27% of mammals, 12% of birds, 37% of sharks and rays, and a staggering 44% of reef corals. These figures underscore that the extinction crisis is not limited to a few charismatic species but is a widespread phenomenon affecting the very foundations of life on Earth. The rate of extinction in the present day is estimated to be 1,000 to 10,000 times higher than the natural background rate, the pace at which species disappeared before the significant influence of human activities. This acceleration signifies that we are entering an era of mass extinction, the sixth in Earth's history, but the first to be driven by a single species, Homo sapiens. Major threats to wildlife populations. The decline in wildlife populations is a result of several interconnected and escalating threats, primarily driven by human actions. 1. Habitat loss and degradation. This is arguably the most significant driver of wildlife decline. As human populations expand and our demands for land and resources increase, natural habitats are being converted for agriculture, urbanization, infrastructure development, roads, railways, dams, and resource extraction, logging, mining. This fragmentation and destruction of habitats leave wildlife with less space to live, breed, and find food, leading to population declines and increased vulnerability. For instance, the clearing of tropical forests, which has seen a loss of over 1.6 million square miles since the 1990s, directly impacts countless species that depend on these ecosystems. Similarly, the expansion of agricultural land for crops and livestock ranching is a major cause of habitat loss worldwide. 2. Overexploitation. This involves the unsustainable harvesting of wildlife for food, medicine, the pet trade, or other purposes. Overfishing has decimated many marine populations, with nearly all migratory fish species listed under the Convention on Migratory Species, CMS, facing a high risk of extinction. their populations declining by 90% since the 1970s. Illegal wildlife trade, driven by demand for exotic pets, traditional medicines, and luxury products, poses a severe threat to numerous species, including elephants, for ivory, rhinos, for their horns, and pangolins, for their scales and meat. 3. Pollution. Various forms of pollution, air, water, and soil, contaminate ecosystems and directly harm wildlife. Plastic pollution, which has increased tenfold since 1980, affects at least 267 species, including sea turtles, seabirds, and marine mammals. Through entanglement and ingestion. Chemical runoff from agriculture and industrial activities pollutes water sources, harming aquatic life and potentially impacting terrestrial animals through the food chain. Air pollution can damage habitats and directly affect the health of animals. Mercury pollution from small-scale gold mining in the Amazon, for example, has been found at unsafe levels in half the fish tested, affecting their neurodevelopment and survival. 4. Climate change. The rapidly changing climate is exerting increasing pressure on wildlife. Rising temperatures, altered precipitation patterns, and more frequent extreme weather events, droughts, floods, wildfires, disrupt ecosystems and species life cycles. Changes in temperature can affect breeding seasons, migration patterns, and the availability of food resources, leading to mismatches and declines in populations. For example, melting ice is reducing polar bears' access to critical hunting grounds, and warming waters contribute to coral bleaching events. Shifting geographic ranges of species can also lead to increased competition and the spread of invasive species. 5. Invasive species. The introduction of non-native species into new environments can have devastating consequences for native wildlife. Invasive species can outcompete native species for resources, prey on them, introduce diseases, and alter habitats, leading to declines and even extinctions of local populations. Human activities, such as global trade and travel, are the primary pathways for the introduction of invasive species. 1. www.schooltube.com www.schooltube.com 6. Disease. Wildlife populations are susceptible to a range of diseases, and factors like habitat loss, climate change, and reduced genetic diversity can increase their vulnerability to outbreaks. Chytridiomycosis, a fungal disease, has caused significant declines and extinctions of amphibian species worldwide. 7. Human-wildlife conflict. As human populations encroach further into natural habitats, interactions between people and wildlife are becoming more frequent, often leading to conflict. This can involve animals damaging crops or livestock, posing a threat to human safety, or competing for resources. Retaliatory killings and other forms of persecution can further decimate already vulnerable wildlife populations. Species on the brink. The combined impact of these threats has pushed numerous species to the brink of extinction. Iconic animals like the African elephant, facing threats from poaching and habitat loss, and the tiger, struggling with habitat fragmentation and prey depletion, or under immense pressure. Marine species, such as the North Atlantic right whale, with an estimated population of only around 336 individuals, are critically endangered due to entanglement in fishing gear and vessel strikes, exacerbated by a warming ocean affecting their food sources. Less charismatic but equally important species are also facing dire situations. Many Amphibian species are critically endangered due to habitat loss and disease. Numerous plant and insect species, vital for ecosystem functioning, are also threatened by habitat destruction and pesticide use. The potential loss of these species would have cascading effects throughout ecosystems, further weakening their resilience. The imperative of conservation. The alarming status of wildlife demands urgent and concerted global action. Conservation efforts are multifaceted and require a collaborative approach involving governments, international organizations, local communities, scientists, and individuals. Some key strategies include 1. Habitat protection and restoration. Establishing and effectively managing protected areas, such as national parks and wildlife reserves, is crucial for safeguarding critical habitats. Efforts to restore degraded ecosystems, such as reforestation and wetland restoration, can help to recover lost habitats and provide refuge for wildlife. Initiatives focused on creating wildlife corridors can help to connect fragmented habitats, allowing for greater movement and genetic exchange between populations. 2. Combating illegal wildlife trade, strengthening law enforcement, increasing penalties for wildlife trafficking, and reducing demand for illegal wildlife products are essential to curb this devastating trade. International cooperation and collaboration between countries are vital too. Disrupt trafficking networks. 3. Sustainable resource management. Implementing sustainable practices in fisheries, forestry, and agriculture can reduce the impact of human activities on wildlife. This includes setting quotas for fishing, promoting sustainable logging practices, and adopting wildlife-friendly agricultural methods. 4. Mitigating climate change, reducing greenhouse gas emissions through transitioning to renewable energy sources, improving energy efficiency, and protecting forests is crucial to mitigate the impacts of climate change on wildlife. Conservation. Efforts must also focus on helping species adapt to the changing climate, such as by protecting climate refugia and facilitating assisted migration where necessary. 5. Controlling invasive species. Implementing strict biosecurity measures to prevent the introduction of invasive species, and developing effective strategies for the management and eradication of established invasive populations are vital to protect native wildlife. 6. Reducing pollution. Addressing pollution at its source through stricter regulations on industrial emissions, promoting sustainable waste management practices, and reducing the use of harmful chemicals in agriculture are essential to protect ecosystems and wildlife. 7. Addressing human-wildlife conflict. Implementing strategies to promote coexistence between humans and wildlife, such as providing compensation for livestock losses, developing early warning systems for wildlife movements, and educating communities about wildlife behavior, can help to reduce conflict and promote tolerance. 8. Public awareness and education. Raising public awareness about the importance of wildlife conservation and the threats they face is crucial for garnering support for conservation efforts. Education can empower individuals to make informed choices and take action to protect wildlife. 9. Research and monitoring. Continued research and monitoring of wildlife populations and their habitats are essential to understand the dynamics of the crisis and to evaluate the effectiveness of conservation interventions. Scientific data informs conservation strategies and helps to identify emerging threats. 10. Policy and legislation. Strong environmental policies and legislation at National and international levels are necessary to provide a framework for wildlife protection and to hold individuals and corporations accountable for activities that harm wildlife. The Endangered Species Act in the United States, for example, has proven effective in stabilizing and recovering populations of numerous species. Hope amidst the crisis. Despite the grim statistics, there are glimmers of hope. Successful conservation stories demonstrate that with dedicated effort and resources, species can be brought back from the brink of extinction. The recovery of species like the California condor, the grizzly bear, and the black-footed ferret in North America, thanks to the protection of the Endangered Species Act and intensive conservation programs, highlights the potential for positive change. International collaborations have also yielded successes, such as the increased protection for certain migratory species under the CMS. Furthermore, growing public awareness and engagement in conservation efforts provide a foundation for future progress. The increasing recognition of the intrinsic value of wildlife and the vital role it plays in maintaining healthy ecosystems is a positive trend. Technological advancements are also offering new tools for monitoring wildlife populations, combating poaching, and restoring habitats. Conclusion: a call to action. The status of wildlife in the present world is a stark reminder of the profound impact of human activities on the natural world. The accelerating rate of biodiversity loss poses a significant threat not only to the survival of countless species but also to the health and stability of our planet and the well-being of future generations. Addressing this crisis requires a fundamental shift in our relationship with nature, moving towards more sustainable practices and a greater appreciation for the interconnectedness of all life. The time for complacency is over. Urgent and transformative action is needed at all levels, from individual choices to global policy changes, to mitigate the threats facing wildlife and to safeguard the precious biodiversity of our planet. By embracing conservation as a moral imperative and a practical necessity, we can still weave a future where humans and wildlife can thrive together, ensuring that the vibrant tapestry of life on Earth endures for generations to come. The fate of countless species, and indeed our own, hangs in the balance.